Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate and today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint this easy winter watercolor landscape. Let's get started. Before we can begin painting, we first need to sketch out our cabin onto our watercolor paper. So I'm going to show you how I drew out my cabin. So to start, all you have to do is draw an angled line for the side of the roof. And then you're going to create a straight line on top of that, and then bring another angled line coming straight, not straight, but slightly angled downward. And then you want to make these lines meet together. And then you're going to create a small, thin triangle shape connect with these two lines. And then you're going to create a rectangle underneath. And then leaving this completely open, right underneath that side of the roof, just bring a little line down and make a little box and just leave that completely open like that. And then underneath the roof, we're going to have two little windows that peek out, so you don't even see really where the top starts. And that is going to be our cabin. And then what you are going to do for this painting, you are going to draw a horizon line. More like, this is actually our water line. Our horizon line will be above our cabin. And then you are going to draw the exact same cabin upside down. So just do your best to recreate that cabin we just drew. It doesn't need to be completely perfect or just like, it doesn't have to be exactly identical. Just do your best to draw out that same cabin right underneath it, just upside down. And this is going to be our reflection in the water. And then I'm going to show you how with paint we are going to make it look more like a actual watery reflection. But this is going to be the base of our painting, and this is a very important step. So I will have a still image of this over on my blog if you'd like to see it completely still, to be able to take your time and sketch this out on your watercolor paper. Now that we have our sketch in place, we can begin painting in our cabin. So I've already mixed up on the side some burnt umber paint, and we are going to use this to fill in our cabin. So I'm just going to grab that on my small detail brush, and I'm just going to start painting in just the bottom part of the cabin. I'm going to leave the windows white for now, and I'm going to leave the roof white. So just take your time. If your sketch is like mine, it's very small. So just take your time with that detail brush and fill in that cabin. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Like that. And then what we do to this cabin, we are going to do to this one underneath. So I'm just adding a little bit more water on my brush just to loosen it up a bit. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Just like that. And then we are going to let this layer dry, and then we will come back with some more detail. Now that our cabin is dry, we are going to add the red windows, and then we are going to add the snowy shadows beneath the cabin. So I'm going to start with the shadows beneath the cabin. I'm going to fill up this entire area with clean water. So just the land, not the water area. We're going to leave that dry for now. And then I've already mixed up a grayish blue paint, and I'm just going to tap that in on the clean water all around the base of my cabin, and then along the water line, just in random little splotches. I'm not going to really do anything, just completely straight, and then along that horizon line. And I'm going to get a little bit more blue, and I'm going to tap that in right around the base of that cabin, just to give it a little bit more, just a little bit more depth and seem a little bit darker. And then just kind of blend that out. I'm going to clean my brush. So with a damp brush, not super wet, I'm just going to blend that blue color out. And the key is I just don't want my white page to look completely flat. So this way it's going to give that snowy vibe. And then we're going to go into our red paint. With the very tip of the brush, I'm just going to fill in these little window boxes. My paint's really light, and I wanted to start with a light wash just because I wasn't sure how I was going to like the super dark. But I think once this first layer of red dries, I'm going to go back in with a darker layer. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the windows underneath in the reflection cabin. Just like that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's Gray to my brown paint mixture that we used earlier, just to darken it up. And I'm going to add that dark color to the sides and underneath the roof of my cabin, just to give, again, some depth and detail. And then I'm going to do it right underneath that roof. I'm not going to go into the windows, so be careful that it doesn't bleed into that red. That. Take a little bit more Payne's Gray, dab off any extra paint, tap it in right there, and then along the roof and back down on that side. So that center area should stay the same color, but just the outline of the cabin should get the darker detailing tone. All right, and then I am not going to add that to our reflection just because it's not going to matter as much when the water is over our cabin. All right, we are going to let this dry, and then we will move on to our next step. All right, now we are going to add the snowy trees to the entire sky area. So what you're going to want to do is take your flat brush, and I'm going to load it up with some clean water. And then with that clean water already on my brush, I'm going to go into that grayish blue paint mixture that we used for the snow's shadowing. And I'm going to fill that in very loosely along the entire top area. And we're going to add our trees in using that wet on wet technique. So I'm going to be very careful not to touch the roof of my cabin. I want that to stay nice and crisp and white for now. So now that I have that nice even layer of paint, I am going to go into my grayish blue mixture. This is going to be a darker tone. And I'm going to start painting in those evergreen trees. And I usually paint one layer at a time, but at this time I'm going to paint in all my trees at once. So I'm going to start in the foreground and kind of work my way up. So I'm going to start pretty high. Going to start tapping in that paint to create the evergreen shape. And the wet on wet technique here is going to make these trees really fade into the background. So just like that. And some other ones over here. Kind of adding the line just for some guidance. It doesn't matter too much about having a line there. Just kind of gives you a starting point and you can build off of it. And again, avoiding touching the cabin and the roof. Trying to keep that clean and not bothered by my trees. Let me know in the comments below if you like seeing this all in real time or if you would like to see steps like this that take a little bit longer where I've already explained the steps, if you'd like to see that more in a time-lapse version to make the tutorial go a little quicker. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you like the real-time recording or if you like the more fast-paced time-lapse with the explanation. All right, and now that our front is completely covered, I'm going to add some water to my paint mixture just to lighten it up a bit, not completely. And then even while this is still wet, I'm going to go right behind it and add in a lighter layer of trees. So it's the same process, we're just going up with a slightly lighter paint color. So you want every tree that you add to look like it's behind the ones we just painted, and you want them to be taller. And it's okay to leave that white space. You want to have some white space to really give the appearance of snow and just that sky behind it. You don't want to have a complete blob of paint. And just vary the size and shape of each tree. All right, and then we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. We're going to add water to our mixture to make it even lighter. I'm going to dab off any extra water I have. And then we are going to go in behind these trees, almost up to the top of our painting. And we're just going to tap in that light color. This should have a very snowy, misty feel to it, which is what we are trying to go for with this painting. And so far, I'm really liking how these trees are turning out. Kind of fill in areas that you feel like need it. I don't want a ton of just blank sky. But again, we don't want to have that complete and total blue blob. We want it all to stand apart from each other. Okay, I'm just going to fill in this last little spot over here. And just like that, we have our snowy trees going all the way up our skyline. Just kind of filling in a couple spots that I thought looked a little too much like a pattern going on. So I'm just filling it in really quickly. That super light wash of paint. Just completely going off the page. All right, like that. So now that our trees have dried, we are going to paint the shadows into our cabin's roof. So I'm going to take some clean water on my brush and I am going to fill in that entire roof area. And I'm going to take that light grayish blue paint mixture we used earlier for the snow, and I'm just going to tap that in along the outer edges of my roof. And then I'm going to let that paint just seep into that clean water we applied everywhere. And this is going to help our roof still seem white, but that it has snow on top of it, rather than just the white page. So just like that, and I'm going to take that darker blue that we used for that first layer of trees, and I'm going to apply that to this underneath section right over here, just because there would be a natural shadow. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to that cabin in our water. So I'm going to fill that up with clean water. And then I'm going to tap in that grayish blue paint all around those edges. And then that dark blue right on that outside. All right, and then while I have this flipped upside down, I am going to add a couple rows of those trees to add to the reflection in the water, because we want whatever appears up here to appear down here. So I'm just going to quickly add a couple loose trees. I'm going to do my best to avoid that roof that I just touched with paint. And with the water area, I'm just being a little bit more loose and less careful about how detailed everything looks, because I know that the water is really going to dull down the detail. But again, I don't want to do it too much to where it doesn't resemble the top area at all. So you want to do your best to really bring these two areas together. I'm going to take some of that lighter paint and I'm just going to fill in the in-between area real quick. Not all the way, just a little bit. And then I'm going to clean off my brush. Use that clean water at the base. And I'm going to blend it into those trees so that they kind of seep downward and there's no harsh line. Just like that. All right, and then since none of this is touching our windows, I'm going to take this time to go in with our red paint and just add a second layer to both sets of windows. I just really feel like it needs to have some darker pigment. and then we are going to let this completely dry, and then we will finally be able to add our water to this painting and finish it off. So now we can add some water to our painting to finish off this look, and then we'll come back with just a couple more little details to finalize our waterline and then just to sharpen up our cabin. So all I did was I mixed a little bit of magnesium blue with ultramarine blue and that Payne's gray, and I'm going to take it on my flat brush, and all we are going to do is start where our waterline begins, and we are just going to paint in over everything that we just painted down there. And this is going to really give it that clean, watery look. And I'm just going to dab in some color, try to make it a little uneven. I'm going to take my dry brush, I'm just going to pick up some paint to just give some white lines that the water would naturally have. But there you have your reflection of your cabin in the water. This is one of the easiest ways to add a reflection into the water with watercolors. If you'd like me to do a whole tutorial on 3 different ways that you can add reflections into the water, please let me know in the comments below. So now, while our water dries, I'm going to take my small detail brush, and I am going to get a really thick mixture of Payne's gray on the tip of that brush. And I'm just going to sharpen up the edges of my cabin. I'm just going to add really thin lines. Just to kind of give that appearance that it is an actual cabin. It's not just flat. And then I'm going to go around the roof. And you can use an ink pen if you like, if you're not super comfortable with just using the tip of your brush. And so I didn't go on the outside of this part of the roof, just underneath and on the inside over here. And then I'm going to take that same paint, I'm going to go around the windows, just like that, just to give that some final detail. And then I'm going to take that same Payne's gray paint, and then my water has pretty much dried, and I'm just going to add a line right across just to kind of show that there's a little bit of a drop down. The snow doesn't go right to the water. I'm just going to take that paint all the way across. Just like that, and then I'm going to blend it out. Just going to blend it into the water. Just so it doesn't feel so sharp. I'm just gonna clean up that area right there. Just blend it into the snow so it looks like a shadow. Right. And there you have your winter cabin with its reflection in the water. Hey everyone, thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you'd like any extra details on this painting, head over to my blog, Reflecting Creation. I'll have a link in the description box below. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.